It is one of the most watched House races in the country.
25 of the 27 toss-ups are currently Republican seats.
Both call Eastern Iowa home, and both are asking for your vote.
I want them to know that this is personal.
I just wanted to serve my country and give back.
Tonight, they go head-to-head for the final time. CBS 2, Fox 28, and News Talk 1540 KXEL bring you the first congressional district debate.
Welcome you inside our studio here at Broadcast Park in Cedar Rapids for the final debate for Iowa's 1st congressional district. I'm CBS 2 and Fox 28 News political reporter Nick Weig. On my right, News Talk 1540 KXEL program director Jeff Stein. We are the moderators for tonight's debate, featuring the Republican and Democratic candidates for U.S. House District 1, Congressman Rod Blum and State Representative Abby Finkenauer. In a moment, I will explain
the future of Eastern Iowa weighs in the balance. We put both sides to the test on the key issues that affect you every day.
We invited questions from viewers of CBS 2 and Fox 28.
Your questions, their answers.
Now, what kind of message does that send to farmers who are looking for progress right now?
See it again on CBS2Iowa.com. The news team dedicated to making your voice heard. CBS 2 News.
And your campaign's Facebook page takes a lot of heat for the stuff it posts. I could spout off the 5 or 6 memes I've already seen today. Does that help with that discourse? Does that help, or does that fan the flames of this partisanship that we're feeling of kind of staying in your corner of the political divide?
Well, my Facebook page is, I don't do that hands-on for me.
And, but it's yes, your name.
I'll take responsibility for it, but I just want to make sure. My Twitter account, though, that's always me. And if a person were monitoring all the comments coming in on that, they would know that there are a bunch of nasty trolls out there that every day they're just constantly pouring in many things that are very, very vile.
Congressman David Young, who's seen more of as an establishment, moderate Republican. We have Rod Blum, who's a member of the House Freedom Caucus. And we have Steve King, who I guess, for lack of a better description, is Steve King. So if all of these now are facing a bit of a difficult re-election campaign this year, is this more of a vote against the party or the politician?
It's a great question. I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things we're going to find out on Tuesday night. We may have Iowa, we all pay a great deal of attention to Iowa for good reason, but you could get a result in Iowa that's all over the map. I don't know what we're going to find out on Tuesday night. One of the great things about election night is we have no idea what's going to happen, and we'll just have to wait for the voters to speak.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth going on tonight, Karen. As we first told you earlier this month, a mailer from the Linn County Auditor's Office included a sample ballot, along with an application to request an absentee one. Problem is, a small number of the 90,000 people in Linn County who got that letter filled it out and sent it in, thinking it was their ballot. Well, now political leaders accuse the auditor of not doing enough to clear up that confusion.
Ballot says official ballot on it, and the watermark isn't clear enough for people to really distinguish that it's just a sample instead of a legitimate ballot.
It's printed in the paper that way, which is our official notice to voters. So, to modify it is to mislead.
But in a small number of cases, that's what apparently happened. Something County Auditor Joel Miller, who is running for county supervisor as an independent, says is being blown way out of proportion.
I have no doubt it's politically motivated. No one has called us. So I wonder how many of these with no return address have came in with the full intention of trying to embarrass me in my office, to basically rack up the numbers to say, oh, there's some more.
Supervisor Ben Rogers, who Miller is challenging, tells us, quote, "My concern and questioning of Joel are the exact questions he would ask me if this was something the board did. Politics has nothing to do with questioning Joel. It has everything to do with making sure people know they can still vote." Despite the political back and forth, Miller believes the mailers did far more good than harm.
So we've handled this. Would I do it again? Yes, I would.
Now, Auditor Miller also says that at least one other county in Iowa does this type of outreach to voters, and it motivates many to vote who might normally skip Election Day. And if you have any doubt whether your vote counted, you can always call your county auditor to confirm whether your absentee ballot was received and processed. Nick Weig, Fox 28. Iowa's early voting window was cut this year from 40 days down to 29. So far, it doesn't seem to be impacting the number of people voting absentee, but there are some indicators that could have party leaders worried. As candidates crisscross the state in the final push, many voters are already at the polls casting early ballots. When comparing the current number of early votes to the same days before the 2014 midterms, most of the numbers are similar to 4 years ago, with the exception of Republicans, which see a significant drop so far in early voting.
Republicans have to be a little concerned about that, but then they have been slower to embrace early voting anyway, traditionally.
The biggest voting bloc in Iowa belongs to those who identify with no party, and so far that group has not turned out in the numbers the major parties are getting.
Again, the question is what the no-party voters are going to do, because they're the folks that decide the elections.
Lynn County Auditor Joel Miller sees another message behind these numbers.
When people may be hesitant to go to the polls because of the Nate Bolton situation.
State Senator Nate Bolton dropped out of the race for governor in the final days of the primary. More than 9,000 voted early for Bolton and could not change their ballot. Miller believes that will add to the congestion at the polls on Election Day.
And it's going to be due to the processing time. It's going to be due to no straight party on there. It's going to take them more time in the voting booth. And I think that's the next time I'm going to see you, actually. Reporting is that there's going to be lines at the polls. I mean, I just have no doubt about it.
And Iowa is already known for stronger voter turnout than the national average. In fact, 4 years ago, more than 53% of registered voters in Iowa cast a ballot in the midterms. So we'll find out on November 6th if that number goes higher this time around. Nick Weig, Fox 28 News.
It takes you beyond the podium for a look at the race for lieutenant governor. Nick?
Yeah, Karen and Chris, much like the vice president, the running mates in the race for governor usually don't grab as much attention. But both acting Lieutenant Governor Adam Gregg and Democrat State Senator Rita Hart are out on their own this week, making the case for the top of the ticket and themselves.
We're just trying to get to every place we can to continue to spread our democratic vision.
We are making the case to Iowans constantly that we can do even better, but we need 4 more years to be able to get that done.
Of course, coming from two parties, their view of Iowa right now is quite different.
We are in an outstanding spot with record low unemployment, with the budget balanced, with the third best managed state, wages going up, taxes going down.
People want to talk about this privatization of Medicaid and how we need to turn that around. And we've been talking about mental health care. Everywhere I go, someone has a story to tell me about someone who has not received the mental health care services that they desperately need.
Win or lose, Senator Hart will end her service in the Iowa Senate as her term ends in January.
Yeah, it was a tough decision, because I was in the middle of a re-election campaign, and I truly enjoyed working for the people of Clinton and Scott counties, so that was difficult to give up. But like many other people throughout this campaign, we've all recognized how important this election is.
And as for the current acting lieutenant governor, win or lose, Gregg says the day after the vote, he plans to find some normalcy.
I will probably sleep in a little bit the day after and I've got 2 young kids at home, a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, probably give them a hug and a kiss and maybe even hold them back from school that day and spend a little extra time with them. I
think we'll all want some sleep on November 7th. Now, you heard Senator Hart talk about giving up her seat at the State House. That's just one of the variables making it hard for her party to try and regain control of the Iowa Senate. Half of the seats will go before voters next week, and before those tallies come in, Republicans already hold a strong advantage in the other half. Now, experts believe Democrats have a better chance of taking control of the Iowa House, which could lead to a split legislature and a bigger focus on compromise come January. Nick Weig, CBS 2 News.
There's been a lot to celebrate here tonight at the Democratic Party headquarters in Des Moines, but there is a troubling trend that we've been watching for the Democrats at the top of the ticket. We've seen Fred Hubbell's lead, which he held for over an hour, slowly fade. We've seen Kim Reynolds pull ahead. We're seeing some new numbers showing that lead is building. And what's troubling about that is we're seeing Democrats flip a seat in District 1. Abby Finkenauer has defeated Rod Blum. But when we're looking at the county numbers in northeast Iowa, where the 4 counties in the northeast corner have picked the winner in the governor's race nearly every race for the last 25 years, they're going Republican in the race for governor. It appears Democrats in northeast Iowa are not getting the votes for governor that they're getting for Congress. And that could be why we're starting to see a disparity between Democrats scoring some wins in House districts, but not potentially in the race for governor. So something to keep an eye on as the final numbers come in, and they appear to be trending towards Governor Kim Reynolds and away from Fred Hubbell. Of course, still more to be counted, still very close, and we're going to continue to monitor that from here. But right now, it's a trend that has brought the room down a little bit here in Des Moines. For now, reporting live in downtown Des Moines, Nick Weig, CBS 2 News.
The 2018 midterms in Iowa turned into a mixed bag of victories and losses for both Republicans and Democrats. In the battle for Iowa's 4 congressional seats, Democrats scored major victories, flipping District 1 and District 3 to blue. District 4, held by Steve King, now the only Republican from Iowa serving in the U.S. House. The credit for Democrats flipping 2 seats from red to blue go to Abby Finkenauer in District 1, who defeated Congressman Rod Blum, and Cindy Axne in District 3, who defeated Congressman David Young. Now, if you look at the congressional races from last night, you see a lot of blue here. But if you look at the statewide race for governor, it is a completely different story. Fred Hubbell only won 11 counties in central and eastern Iowa, but the margin was still very close. Governor Kim Reynolds came in with just over 50%, Fred Hubbell at just over 47%. That's because Hubbell ran up the numbers in some of the heaviest populated areas of Iowa: Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Dubuque, Waterloo, Quad Cities, and of course Des Moines. But it wasn't enough to overcome the margins that Governor Reynolds was getting in more rural parts of the state in all of these counties. He also didn't win some key counties he needed to, some of the smaller metro areas like Sioux City, Fort Dodge, and Mason City. And in northeast Iowa, especially in the top 4 counties right here, Fred Hubbell was not getting as many votes as fellow Democrat Abby Finkenauer. So what this all boils down to is both Democrats and Republicans scored some victories here in Iowa, with Republicans maintaining almost complete control of state politics, while Democrats will get more. Yeah, Karen, as a former football player, Matt Whitaker is no stranger to conflict, but this political fight he's now embroiled in has created a fracture of opinion in Iowa City. Protests on the Pentecrest are nothing new, but this one comes with a Hawkeye alum at odds with many from his alma mater. Matt Whitaker attended law school at the University of Iowa in the early 90s. He was also a member of some of the best teams Hayden Fry ever coached. Whitaker was a member of Iowa's 1991 Rose Bowl squad, playing 3 years at tight end.
Matt was the kind of person that always was reliable in everything that he was asked to do.
Don Patterson was an assistant coach under Hayden Fry and worked closely with Whitaker on the field. His praise of Whitaker is shared by those who worked with him in the legal world.
He's a hard worker, clear thinker, but probably most importantly for President Trump, he's loyal.
But that reliability in the case of Whitaker's new boss, President Trump, is what has others worried.
I don't think anyone hired by Trump can be trusted, to be honest. And I mean, he's fired so many people, in the 2 years he's been our president so far.
As for the coach who knew him as a student, he's not worried about what happens next.
Always has seen himself as a public servant, but he's someone that you can trust to do the right thing at all times.
Now, as of right now, there's no signs Whitaker is planning to make any changes to the special counsel's work. And there are new reports tonight that Robert Mueller and his team are already preparing a final report to the Department of Justice and eventually members of Congress. Nick Weig, Fox 28 News.
Yeah, Christopher, John Culver actually raised his family right here in Cedar Rapids, where he worked as a lawyer. But he decided to run for public office after the very public and tragic death of a close friend's brother. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy stunned the nation, but it was much more personal for John Culver, who grew close to the Kennedy family through his Harvard football teammate, Ted Kennedy. Already a senator, the younger Kennedy helped propel his friend into public office. Culver served Iowa in the U.S. House for a decade before winning a seat alongside Kennedy in the U.S. Senate.
John Culver was an extraordinarily unusual and thoughtful United States Senator.
Former Republican Congressman Jim Leach says there were few as honest as John Culver.
He is one of the last of a group that might be considered centrist liberals.
Like Kennedy, Culver used his physical persona to get his message across.
John Culver wanted his way, and he demanded his way.
Veteran journalist Dean Borg covered Culver for many years.
Of that big physique, and he used that and that big voice just to say, I know what to do, I know how to get it done, and if you vote for me, it will be done. It was just that sort of, and you don't see that today in a lot of politicians.
That direct style failed Culver when he was challenged in 1980 by then Congressman Chuck Grassley.
I think the major thing, though, is the issues were on our side.
After learning of Culver's passing, Senator Grassley said, quote, he was proud of his record and defended it, not sacrificing his stance for political expediency, and that deserves to be recognized. Grassley also pointed to his grace, even in defeat.
I also indicated to him that I wished him every possible success as he assumes the responsibilities as senator from the state of Iowa for the next 6 years.
Now, of course, 38 years later, Senator Grassley is still serving in that seat, now the second longest serving member of Congress. In a statement, Culver's son, former Governor Chet Culver, said of his father, quote, he was courageous and compassionate. He lived his life thankful for the opportunity to serve, and he taught me the importance of service to others. Senator Culver will be laid to rest in McGregor. Final funeral arrangements are still pending. Nick Weig, Fox 28 News.
Mention that would have been, you would have driven these people back there crazy.
The White House's second high-profile visit to eastern Iowa this month had a political goal: to get Governor Kim Reynolds and Congressman Rod Blum reelected in November.
You're in the top 3 in jobs. You're in the top 3 in employment. You're #1 state. I think they just came out. That's right. Those are very bad sound bites for whoever you're running against. I don't know.
President Trump launched his most direct attack against Democrat Abby Finkenauer, who's hoping to defeat Congressman Blum in this year's midterms.
I guess he's got a race against somebody they call Absent Abby because she never showed up to the State House. I don't know what's going on. Absent Abby. Who is Absent Abby?
Shortly after the president's comment, Finkenauer tweeted, "The name's Abby Finkenauer, for the record, but I'm sure you'll know it by election night." Experts say visits like this are designed to encourage base Republicans to get out and vote in November in hopes of preserving a Republican majority in Congress. And here in Iowa, one of the biggest roadblocks facing the president and Republicans is the trade war with China and its impact on farming.
And you've taken some heat for it in the short term, but in the long run, the farmers, the manufacturers, the employers are all going to be better off.
Right.
Thank you for having political courage.
A bit of a lighter note on the trade issue, Congressman Rod Blum said he would buy a steak dinner for Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross if he can get a trade deal done with Mexico within 90 days. In Piasta, Nick Weig, Fox 28 News.